I think there is a sense in which if you start from a notion of freedom in education and you look at various ways in which people have been concerned to develop a kind of education that has an idea of freedom somehow at its heart, then you might think that there's a kind of continuous, a continuum from places like Summerhill through progressive experimental schools, democratic schools, to anarchist education. But I think there is a difference in terms of the way the concept of freedom is conceived. Certainly if you look at Summerhill, if you look at the writings of A.S. Neal, which reflect a very well thought out position on human development, on life in society, relationships between individuals, the concept of freedom underpinning that theoretical framework is very much an individual notion of freedom. It's about individuals being emotionally and psychologically free, in the sense of being free of various forms of repression that Neal saw as being essentially the result of bourgeois parenting practices. And he was much more informed by a kind of psychoanalytic tradition than he was by the political tradition of thinkers like Godwin and Bakunin, who influenced the anarchist schools at the beginning of the century. So I think the idea for people like Neal and people committed to that form of free schooling is that you have to allow individuals to become free in an almost kind of therapeutic sense. And if people are genuinely free from various hang-ups and forms of not so much oppression as repression, then society will sort of take care of itself. Whereas for the anarchists, the idea of an individual being free without a social context was really conceptually incoherent. I mean, freedom was a social concept, certainly from the 19th century social anarchists. And so to be free meant to be able to set up and sustain the kind of communities in which not just individual freedom, but some form of communal flourishing could be encouraged. And so their vision of freedom was of a free society, much more than just a free individual.